Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is West Productions 100 bringing you another live stream here. So we'll be talking about cannabis today, and we're talking about cannabis in particular with regards to Australia. I actually tried doing a live stream of this thing a while back, but there were some issues, so I had to start over again. And so basically, I'm gonna be reviewing this video from ABC News Australia called "The International Crime Syndicates Running Multi-Billion-Dollar Cannabis Businesses in the Suburbs." So I'll put a link also in the description section and down below. And so without further ado, let's begin with this video. And I'm going to be discussing basically cannabis and like laws regarding cannabis and stuff like that throughout the video. I'm going to be pausing and commenting on what's going on in the video. So yeah, let's start.
Police search warrant, open the door! Police search warrant, close the door with me, police search warrant!
What you're seeing is police seizing cannabis plants from a grow house, a modest home in a residential street where hundreds of thousands of dollars of marijuana was being grown.
So yeah, let's stop there for a second. So that was a grow house, an illegal grow house in Australia, in a Sydney suburb, and the man just said right there on that report that they were making revenue or making profit of hundreds of thousands of dollars right there, illegally. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine if that was actually legalized, what those hundreds of thousands of dollars could actually do, and that's in addition. And that's not including the taxes right there. That can help to start new businesses. That can help to employ people. That can help entrepreneurs to find a new field to try and get their feet wet in. Here's all these benefits, and that's not even including taxes. If this stuff was legal, it'd be taxed. You can help. This could help with taxing for infrastructure. It could help with schools. It could help with healthcare. It could help with the libraries. Police departments, whatever, stuff that's usually helped funded through tax dollars, and that varies by country. Australia, with tax dollars, is going to be different from the United States. It's going to be different from Canada. Going to be different from the United Kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, whatever's being used in that moment in time, it could be potentially used in better ways. But instead, we're having this money that's being made illegally instead go into the hands of crime syndicates and drug cartels and other not so great people. That money is then being used to help fund drug wars, to help fund more violence and more innocent people, and more in the deaths or the possible deaths of innocent people who don't want anything to do with this, but they just are simply caught up in it just through various circumstances, that in some cases are almost completely out of their control. And it's just, I find it, silly. I find it ridiculous. All these decades, there's been this drug war going on, all this aggressive policing with the drugs, and very few people actually benefit from this environment we have right now. One of them is drug cartels. They are able to make hundreds of millions to billions of dollars off of this stuff, and it allows them to have huge amounts of money and power in that regard. And it's just mind-boggling that all that money and power, it could be used in better ways. It could result in better things. It can result in entrepreneurs, starting successful businesses. It could result in employees, having jobs and hopefully having livable wage jobs that can be, with healthcare and pensions and stuff like that. But instead, that money is being used illegally to help buy weapons and to continue drug wars and gang rivalries and stuff like that, and just and other things that are not so great, things that keep people down, things that benefit very few people, and things that it's just causing a lot of violence, causing a lot of chaos, and it's nuts. So here we go. We're gonna keep playing this.
Type of houses are not your everyday mum and dad's growing a couple of plants. These are backed by organised criminal syndicates.
So right there, this is not your mom and dad like house. This is not like your normal everyday house. These are houses that are bought or rented by criminal syndicates, and then they use those houses to to manufacture said plants. But let's think about that though. Maybe why not? Why can't a mom and dad? Why can't a family start their own family business in terms of selling marijuana? Like they can grow it from their own house, or they can, rent out a warehouse, buy the property to then, manufacture it there. Why, I would much rather prefer in terms of cannabis, if it was a mom and pop shop or a mom and pop business, a family business that was run legitimately and was providing people with jobs, than a criminal syndicate, a crime organization, using said money to then fund violence, to fund themselves, keeping themselves in power, basically, and to fund, to fund violent acts in order to retain their power. So anyway, here, this police operation is only targeting...
This police operation is only targeting grow houses in southwestern Sydney, but since 2011, it has raided over 570 properties and seized more than 70,000 plants.
I don't know.
So let's repeat that again one more time.
570 properties and seized more than 70,000 plants.
So over 570 properties and over 70 plants seized from 2011 to 2018. That's just 2011 to 2018 alone, and that's just Southwest Sydney. That's not any other part of Australia. It's not any other part of the world. That's just Southwest Sydney. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of properties. That's a lot of plants seized. That's a lot, people. That's a lot going on right there, and all that. The money. Money was involved there in order to seize those plants, in order to seize those houses. Police time and effort was put into that. And it's just and for what? What's the benefit of that? There doesn't really seem to be a whole very good benefit that benefits most people. It doesn't seem to be really worth it in the long run. You have the police seizing all these properties and seizing all these plants, it's illegal right now. Yes. That being said, if it was legal, police efforts could be, utilized elsewhere, and those plants being sold could then be sold in a legal way, and could create revenue, create jobs, create taxes could be taxed, could be regulated, And I'm gonna be repeating that throughout, because those are legitimate points to keep bringing up over and over again. And those are points that, go against what the status quo is right now, what the system is right now. And yeah, so let's continue on.
I don't know whether we're actually making a dent into it or not, because we could be disrupting one here today, and another 4 or 5 could be popping up.
So even the police, even people from the police departments, do not even know for certain if what they're doing is even worth it, if it's actually making an impact at all. Because like I said, maybe they seize one house today, but then there's 4 or 5 that could pop up within the same period of time. So again, what's the point of all this? Like, just to continue this cycle, and for what? Like, it doesn't seem to be very productive. It seems to be a waste of time. Money is being made in this situation that's being used for bad purposes, that if the weed was legal, could be, used for better means. And by the way, I'm not saying that if we legalize weed, that criminal syndicates aren't going to continue to try and sell marijuana illegally. I think they would. However, though, here's the thing. Their power, I argue, would be diminished because they have competition now. You can't just, you have competition, and it's legitimate, good competition, because you can go to multiple different places to buy marijuana from a legitimate source, a mom and pop business or a bigger company. So you got that competition. That competition is also backed by regulations. You have a better idea of where you're getting that weed from. Therefore, you have a better quality product overall, and you know that. You know that for the most part. You know that this product has a better quality overall. You know, there would be labels on this stuff. It would have the amount of THC in it, you know, for either for smoking or digesting. So once again, you know, I see multiple benefits with legalizing marijuana. You know, to me, the benefits outweigh the costs here. They outweigh the cost. You know, it just seems that this whole issue with marijuana is it just feels very outdated. It feels very outdated. Really, it does. Like, regardless of whether you even like weed or not. Like, I understand people don't like weed, and that's fine. You know, no one, you know, you don't have to smoke it if you don't want to. You know, I don't smoke it that often. I drink alcohol more often than I've ever smoked weed. And alcohol, as far as I know, is a lot worse for your body, especially if you drink it a lot more often than, you know, what's recommended in your age bracket. Because the older you get, the more energy it takes for your body to digest that stuff. And you know, and especially if you drink a lot of it when you're younger, you know, that might fuck up your liver. It might make your liver get damaged very badly, cirrhosis of the liver and stuff like that. So, you know, but that doesn't stop people from drinking alcohol. They still drink alcohol. And, you know, we, at one point in the United States, made it illegal to drink alcohol. That didn't stop people from drinking alcohol. People still drank alcohol, you know, and then criminal organizations actually became very powerful. Like people like Al Capone became very powerful because alcohol was legal and they were able to make a ton of money off of that because there was a demand for it. So, you know, some people are just willing to do this kind of stuff. And so I don't see why we need to have that money then go into the hands of people like Al Capone or other gangsters or other criminal syndicates or mafias or anything like that. And yeah, so it just seems like it's a huge issue right here.
The drug syndicates these police are targeting are doing big business, and police say it's not just about cannabis.
The cannabis grow houses, the profits they make from there can fuel, you know, other illegal activities, and that could mean importing, you know, other drugs through the border, manufacturing other drugs, including ice. That's the potential danger.
A house.
So listen to what that guy just said right there. He just said that they're making profits. They're making huge, huge, huge profits from the stuff. Those said profits, if marijuana was legalized, could then be diverted to more legitimate, more better things, like, you know, legitimate businesses with, you know, employing people, giving them a way to earn a living, you know, having taxes being taken out with the marijuana sales, you know, having those taxes then help aid the, you know, public good. Hopefully, you know, hopefully those taxes are used for public benefit. Education, healthcare, infrastructure of the roads, helping to fund police departments, helping to fund fire departments, helping to fund medical establishments, you know, the public institutions like that, the library, for instance, you know, state universities. But instead we're allowing ourselves to have this stuff be illegal and having millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in profits go into the hands of these criminal syndicates who are then using it to then manufacture other illegal drugs. And, you know, to get rich, basically, to get rich and to make a huge buck. And because here's the thing, because it's illegal, it's unregulated. And, you know, like, again, that means, you know, they could be treating their workers badly. You know, if it's a legitimate business, they can't get away with that as easily. They could possibly, but they could come under more scrutiny. If you're an illegal black market kind of running business, you know, there won't be as much oversight because you don't have to work, you know, because of that, basically. And like
Targeting are doing big business.
Yeah, they're doing big business.
Police say
They're doing big business, and that big business instead could be legitimized. It could be used to be more positive, to go towards more positive things, but we're not allowing that. Australia is not allowing that for some reason. They're just stubborn, and they're stuck in this, you know, they're stuck in this mentality like weed is bad, weed is illegal. We can't question that. We just have to continue with the status quo. We have to continue with the way things are, but the way things are not working.
it's not just about cannabis.
the cannabis grow houses.
The cannabis grow houses that could be legalized, and then those grow houses could then be managed legally by mom and pop style businesses, or by small business, or by a medium-sized business or large business. All legitimate options, all better than what the status quo is right now with these criminal syndicates. You know, it's so frustrating.
The profits they make from there
the profits that they can make, and they make big business. They make big profits, and we just allow this to happen. We don't
fuel, other illegal activities, and that.
Yeah, they allow them to fuel other illegal activities. Like he just said that. If you legalize this stuff, I'm not saying these other crime syndicates are going to go away completely, but it's going to damage them. It's going to damage their profits. If you do this, it's going to legitimately damage their profits, because, like I said, competition. They have competition from legal, legitimate businesses. That if you don't think that, how could you not think that would put a dent in things? People are totally going to want to buy from legal, legitimate businesses if that's the case. I don't know. It's just I've been seeing. I've been reading and seeing and learning about the drug war and how things have been going for the past couple of decades, and it just seems all the same. We've been doing the same thing over and over again. It just doesn't seem to be working, and for good reason. These drugs are big money makers. Of course, people out there. There's people that are out there that exist that are willing to do this because it makes them a shit ton of money. It makes them a shit ton of money, and it gives them power. It gives them huge amounts of power outside of government. It's ridiculous.
Could mean importing other drugs through the border.
Yeah, importing other drugs through the border, which would be damaged. It's in itself if you legalize marijuana and make their profits from marijuana down, because then they have less money. If they have less money, they have less power. Understand? They aren't able to have as much control as they would have before if you kept things the way they are right now. Okay? That's what I'm trying to say here.
Manufacturing other drugs, including ice, that's the potential danger. A house like this one can yield over $1 million a year in cash.
$1 million a year in cash, Australian dollars. I think Australia uses an Australian dollar currency, but yeah, over $1 million in cash. $1 million. I mean, come on, people! That should be money that should be being made by some kind of an entrepreneur or a mom and pop business or a small business or some kind of legitimate business. $1 million in sales, not some illegal crime syndicate, not some mafia, not some gangsters and stuff. We're just gonna use that money to, give themselves more power and stuff like that. Again, there's just not as many. There's less benefits to the way things are now compared to if we legalize this stuff. More business, more opportunities for people to make a living. A legitimate living, a decent living, not have to worry about, getting, not to worry about criminal repercussions, like, trying to get away from a criminal syndicate that could come after them and possibly kill them. It's ridiculous.
A single grow earns $250,000, and multiple grows are cycled throughout the year.
Ridiculous. All this money is being made illegally, could be made legally. And it could be benefiting people. And I keep saying that over and over again, but it feels like I need to say that over and over again because there's just truth in that.
Any given house will contain seedlings, such as these, as well as rooms full of plants.
The head of the syndicate, the top level, in one operation, depending on how many grow houses they've got, they have a potential of tens of millions of dollars in profit.
Tens of millions of dollars in profit. Tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions of dollars. That's being made illegally. Illegally. Tens of millions of dollars by one head of the growing or of growing things like that. Just Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Why is this stuff not legal? Even if you fucking hate marijuana, you despise that shit. How can you not see the benefits of making it legal? Like I said, like a billion times already. I'm going to keep saying it again though. If it was legalized, there could be an entrepreneur who's doing that instead, making a legitimate business, giving employees jobs, having them have livable wages with healthcare and with pensions included as well. Okay? That's possible under a legal system. This is not possible as much under an illegal system like this. It's just not as likely to happen as compared to if it was legal. And we're allowing an illegal criminal syndicate or someone like that to get away with this, to make tens of millions of dollars in profit that should instead be being made by a legitimate company that could employ people and give them jobs and have the taxes that they earn contribute back to society as a whole. But instead we allow ourselves to keep this shit illegal, and none of that money is going back into society. It's just going to the hands of a very few people. Ridiculous.
In the hands of organised crime.
A typical grow house will have its windows blacked out to hide the high-intensity lighting inside. Ventilation systems transfers the heat and smell of the plants upwards and away from the neighbours, while a network of hoses are usually connected to the bathroom to water the plants. So how does a criminal syndicate keep one of these houses from being detected? Well, they don't. Houses are frequently detected when energy providers notice excessive power use on a street with no apparent user. The lighting in a hydroponic setup like this requires a lot of power, which syndicates manage to steal by rewiring a grow house to bypass the meter. And it's dangerous inside too.
When you've got crops and generators within roofs of particularly old weatherboard buildings out in the southwest, the potential of fire, the potential of being electrocuted, you've got water, irrigation systems running all over the floor, you're walking into a death trap.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from that is that, these illegal grow houses are also a very dangerous place to work in. And like I said earlier, part of the reason why that's the case is because of their status as being illegal. Because they're illegal, they don't have to follow laws and regulations for, that another business would have to. If this was a legal legitimate company, okay, who's growing marijuana and selling it, they would have to follow rules and regulations, especially if the workplace gets too dangerous. If there's a fear, if there's an issue, a potential, if there's a fire hazard, there's an electrical hazard, there's all these hazards with these grow houses, and of course the government's not going to care about that because they're legal. But if they weren't illegal, if these businesses were legitimate businesses, they could totally come under scrutiny. They could get attacked for that, and good they should become attacked for that, because you're putting the lives of your employees at risk. Then there's a fire hazard. They could be burned alive. They could be electrocuted. There's all these hazards, and people have probably died, from these sales, from these growing houses, these illegal growing houses. And are the criminal syndicates going to come under scrutiny from the government for that? Hell no, of course not. Not really. Very unlikely compared to a legal, legitimate business. No, not really. They can simply walk away. If a man is working one of these places and they get burned or they get electrocuted in an illegal grow house, you think the criminal syndicate, the drug cartel, is going to reimburse them and their family for damages and stuff like that? Probably not. Maybe the drug cartel guy is a really nice person, but I don't see that happening. Nope, I don't see that happening at all. In fact, I see him just walking away, trying to abandon it as much as possible and find a new place to grow marijuana and just hire some other person and completely forget about the other person. It's ridiculous.
The profits are so great that when a grow house is raided, the losses are simply absorbed.
So I don't know if you heard that or not, but basically, if a grow house is raided, then the profits that are lost from that grow house are simply absorbed by the other grow houses. That's how much money they're making. They're not even putting a dent into these operations. If marijuana was legalized, that would put a bigger dent, a much bigger dent. I believe this. It would. I believe it would put a much bigger dent into illegal growing operations. Because, like I said, competition. There's more competition. Again, many people would be willing to go and get their stuff legally, be willing to buy marijuana legally. And if they're willing to buy marijuana legally, that's money and that's profits that are going into the hands of legitimate businesses and through taxes to the state, and that's money that's being taken away from criminal syndicates. That's going to hurt their profits. Yes, it would. I believe that in most cases. Maybe there's a few instances where criminal syndicates are able to somehow, get around the system or somehow able to survive or something like that. But I definitely think that most criminal organizations, most criminal groups would be affected, and then you combine the profits lost from the legal marijuana with then these SWAT teams going into raiding these grow houses. Those raids would be a lot more effective then, because they are not making as much of a profit. So maybe the criminal syndicates might start to see, hey, you know what? This is not even worth it anymore because we're losing more money than we're making. So they might pull out of a country or an area where there's legal weed, because they realize like we're not making as much money and we're just losing more money. And it's not, and the cost is not being, the cost is exceeding the reward. So, they want to get out of that. They want to bail out of that because of that. So, yeah.
You've got, say, potentially 20 grow houses running at once.
20 grow houses running at once. I'm at 20 grow houses, 20 freaking places that are manufacturing this stuff for at least one criminal syndicate. Like I said, there could be an entrepreneur, a legitimate entrepreneur, who could be managing 20 manufacturing facilities, whether they're houses that are properly managed and don't have fire hazards, or more like a warehouse or a barn that's manufacturing this stuff and is providing people with legitimate jobs, with healthcare and pensions. But instead, we allow ourselves to continue with this status quo nonsense. Like, very few, I don't get it, because very few people actually benefit from this. The regular citizen, even if a regular individual hates marijuana, they don't even benefit really from the way things are. They don't benefit from illegalized marijuana. All legal marijuana is to them is a minor inconvenience, really. Oh, someone is smoking it around me. I don't like the smell of it. Ooh, I don't like the smoke. Ooh, like it irritates me. Or like, oh, like maybe I have some kids and I don't want my kids to be around that stuff. And that's fair enough, I guess. But in that case, do what we did with cigarettes. Petition to have them, banned from certain places like restaurants. Back in the day with cigarettes, you could smoke them wherever the hell you want to. Now you can't do that anymore with cigarettes. You got to smoke them in certain places, and I don't mind that either. I think we got to take into considerations. We got to take those things into consideration. If a restaurant doesn't want people smoking marijuana in their restaurant, just like they don't want cigarettes, then have smoking shops where people can go. Have little cafes like they do in Amsterdam. But keeping it illegal is not worth it. It's not worth the cost, okay? And just because it inconveniences you, or if you have kids, it inconveniences them or other people, it's not worth it to put people in jail over it. It's not worth it to make it illegal just because it minorly inconveniences you on your specific day that it's inconveniencing you. There's other ways around that. I just gave some examples. Keeping it illegal is not the answer. It's not the best answer. It's an answer, but it's far from the best answer.
You lose 1 or 2, 3. It's not a huge dent in the profit.
typical grow organisation is structured in 3 tiers, so the higher-ups can evade detection.
So the higher-ups can evade detection. So they're not even they're running away with the money anyway. You know, those grow houses are raided. Only the lower tier workers or employees get arrested. The higher people are able to just run away and just start more businesses. Like, so stupid. So stupid.
Syndicate heads can collect the most revenue from a cannabis grow operation without ever setting foot in a grow house.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
That's because below them are facilitators, responsible for sourcing properties and providing equipment. There are electricians, plumbers, real estate agents, or loan brokers with the right connections to establish a profitable grow house.
All this could be legal, by the way, and could be much more beneficial.
There are also a layer of cover between a syndicate head and the crop sitters at the bottom of the tree. It's the crop sitter's job to live in and provide security for the house, as well as to maintain the crop and harvest it once it's grown.
So the lower tier of this whole chain, this whole pyramid, are the ones that get the short end of the stick, not the heads, the ones who make the most money. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous again. Like, you know, just, and again, like, you know, all of this could be legal and things would be much better. All these people would have jobs, hopefully livable wage jobs, you know, and stuff like that, and healthcare and things like that. But instead, we choose to continue down this road that hasn't been working. It's inefficient. It's unproductive. And it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of money, and we still, for some reason, want to continue on this road that, again, benefits very few people. Very few people, like the heads of these growing operations. They're the very few minority that benefits here. Most people, including the crop sitters, don't benefit as much. It's these people, you know, these very few people who control these organizations, they benefit the most, these criminal organizations. Think about that. Think about who's benefiting here from keeping it illegal. Who are some other people that could possibly benefit from keeping it illegal as well? Possibly people from Big Pharma, because they also see it as competition. They can't, you know, people might want to do this over taking prescription painkillers or pain medicines that you get from a drugstore and stuff like that. So, again,
most crop sitters are found to be unlawful non-citizens from poor parts of Vietnam, lured by the opportunity to make a lot of easy money. They usually have no ties to Australia, speak very little English, and are very easily replaced, which makes them attractive to syndicates.
The organised crime.
So a lot of these lower tier people in Australia, in the case of Australia, are not even from Australia. They're from Southeast Asia. They don't, you know, they speak very little English. They're trying to make a lot of money for their family. They're vulnerable because of certain things, like because they're low income and from their country of origin, and because they don't speak a lot of English, and because they don't know the area that well, and because, you know, they're just desperate. They're desperate people. So yeah. And also they're vulnerable because they're easily replaceable. And that makes a lot of sense, because a couple of people the house gets raided, a couple of people get arrested and possibly deported back to Vietnam or Cambodia or Thailand. Then what? Just grab a couple other people and just some new people and just put them in the same situation, and just the whole cycle goes over and over again. Yeah. None of these crime syndicates, these crop headers, like, these are just like lower tier workers. Like, these people can, you know, be replaced in their minds. Yeah.
Very easily replaced, which makes them attractive to syndicates.
The organised crime tentacles, they can reach back home for them, where they have got families. You know, the threat of violence to their families often make them very, very scared to speak to the police.
So yeah, they're also vulnerable because of retribution, because of the threat of violence. They want the money, but then, you know, they can't easily go to the police either because they're scared. They're scared for their families, and they're scared for their own lives. Can you imagine having to be in a situation like that where, you know, you're dependent on this person for a job, and they're more than willing to threaten you with violence if you speak out against them, or if you try to report them to like police or something like that. Like no legitimate business. It would be very hard for a legitimate business to get away with that, especially with the threat of violence against you or your family. Like, and that's another thing. That's why these illegal business organizations, because they're illegal, the government doesn't care as much about them, and they're able to enforce these kind of things. They're able to enforce these threats of violence, and and people feel powerless because they have to go up against Goliath while they're David, and they don't have as many of the tools that David would have had against Goliath. Anyway, let's continue with this video. Funny thing is, this is only like a 4-minute video, but I've been talking about it for over half an hour now. So anyway, let's keep going.
This is what back home looks like. Many crop sitters are from poorer provinces, such as Hai Phong and Nha An. For a young Vietnamese person, such as Hoang Vu Yui, it was too much money to say no to.
Just the same guy. He come to harvest. I just clean up the house, and then he pay me for to water of the tree, and that's it.
Yui was 25 years old when he was arrested at a grow house in Melbourne and deported. There are hundreds more crop sitters like him, some arriving on fraudulent visas, and police want a whole of government response to the issue.
It's huge.
It's crazy. So yeah, they're using these people from poor, less income areas that are if the opportunity arises, they're willing to put themselves in danger to do this. And of course, most of these people, I believe, if they had the opportunity, they wouldn't want to do this. They would prefer to have a job that's more stable, that gives them a better life, but they feel like they don't have access to that. And maybe some of them don't really have access to that. Maybe it's just, really hard for them. Maybe just don't have access to the education or access to the network to make that happen. And so because of that, they feel like they need to do this in order to try and make more money. But if it was, things would be different if it wasn't, things could be different, basically, is what I'm trying to say,
So it's a massive drain on our resources.
He's referring to the police right there. And yeah, it is a massive drain on your resources. Like, you're devoting all this time and effort and money to raid these grow houses. And for what? Just for more of them to pop up. It's just, it just continues on and on and on. It's just a cycle, and it just seems like it's gonna be a never ending cycle. Like, me and other people, think that resources with the police could be spent elsewhere. They could be better elsewhere. And it's true. Resources could be diverted to more productive things, but instead it's devoted to things like this, which are very unproductive. They don't go anywhere. It just continues on and on and on.
Working parts behind it that could be better used somewhere else as well.
Yep, even he said it. He said there are many working parts that could be used elsewhere that could be better. So yeah, that wraps up that video right there from ABC News Australia. I'm going to put a link in the description for it. Yeah, so I think that video clearly explains. You can watch the full video yourself. I think the video itself explains why legalizing marijuana can be a good thing, because it's all those negatives displayed in the video that if marijuana was legalized, they would either be gone or reduced. Okay? And it's just, I just don't see. I don't think the way things are working right now, they're not good. They're not as productive. They're not as efficient. They just seem to cause more harm than good. They seem to have more negatives than positives. And it's just, you just continue doing these things. But even police people in police departments are even admitting that this is a drain on our resources. This feels unproductive. It feels like time could be spent elsewhere doing other things. If people from the police departments are saying that, then I think there's got to be something to that to some degree in this situation. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description section. It's going to be talking. This could be, the video itself. And yeah, just watching that video again just really frustrated me about what's going on here. Like there's all these issues happening, all these negatives, and all this stuff that could be solved in some form or another by legalizing marijuana or decriminalizing it or something like that. Because it's just like it's just ridiculous the way it is right now. But it's if Canada did recently legalize marijuana recreationally nationwide, and that takes effect later this year. I think that's a good step right there. I think it is. I think more people will definitely go and buy legal weed, and therefore the revenue can be used to start up businesses or to aid the business or to start up businesses or maintain businesses that already exist and pay employees and provide taxes to help hopefully aid with healthcare in Canada and with other things in Canada like education and infrastructure of like roads and bridges and railroads and stuff like that. I think those things can definitely be beneficial. Hopefully that does help, and I do hope legalizing it in Canada will put some kind of an effect on crime syndicates selling marijuana illegally, because I think they will. Because, like I said, you have that competition, and if you have that competition, yeah, I think you're not gonna make as much money, because I think most people would prefer to go to a legitimate seller whose product is regulated and tested and is clearly labeled. Because if you get these stuff illegally, you don't know where the hell it came from. You don't know what's in it. There's been cases where people have died from synthetic marijuana, which isn't even real marijuana in the first place. It's synthetic. It's fake shit. It's just stuff. It's all this other stuff just mixed together. Maybe there's like some weed mixed in with it too, but people put all this other stuff in it, like chemicals, like really, really dangerous chemicals. And it's not even legitimate marijuana, and people have died from that. If under a legal system, under a legal marijuana business, that shit would not fly at all. At all. It would be regulated. It would be tested. It would be, labeled correctly. How much THC, what percentage of THC is in this, product. All these things would be, tested and checked for. So, I think those are many reasons why I think this is better. As I've said over and over again in this video, but they're all, despite me saying it over and over again, that still doesn't mean it's a bad thing for me to say it over and over again. There's still legitimate points. Okay, so that wraps up this video. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. Subscribe for more videos. I got a whole plethora of videos on the way. Check out all the hundreds of videos I already have on this channel. Thank you again for watching. Thank you all for the support. Really appreciate it. And bye-bye.